The chairman's going to defer to Mr. Perry for 5 minutes.
I thank the chairman. Thank you, Administrator Whitaker. I'm going to start out with a couple perfunctory questions here. Would you agree that the Airport Improvement Program Grant Assurance 19 Operations and Maintenance requires the following? I'm going to read this right out of the manual here. The airport and facilities which are necessary to serve the aeronautical users of the airport, other than facilities owned by or controlled by the United States, shall be operated at all times in a safe and serviceable condition and in accordance with the minimum standards for maintenance and operation, and it will not cause or permit any activity or actions thereon which would interfere with its use for airport purposes. Is that, do you agree with that? I mean, it's out of the manual.
I mean, I'm not familiar with it by word, but it sounds
okay.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds right. Okay. So would you also agree that the FAA Airport Compliance Manual, Section 22.6, request for interim use of aeronautical property for other uses generally requires the FAA to approve the use of airport facilities for non-aeronautical purposes, and in fact, it explicitly states that the FAA approval shall not be granted if the FAA determines that an aeronautical demand is likely to exist within the period of interim use.
I believe that's accurate. That's my understanding.
Yeah, it's right out of the manual. I'll give it to you if you want to see it. So these documents from the FAA make it abundantly clear that airports are restricted in their ability to use their facilities for non-aeronautical purposes, and when they are doing that, or when they're requesting so, they must receive FAA approval. The restrictions are in place to protect the flying public and the safety, but also to protect the investments that taxpayers have made in federally funded airports. Yet, I will tell you, I've seen a disturbing trend in cities choosing to use their airports, such as Chicago, O'Hare, Midway, Boston's Logan's, as facilities to house illegal foreign nationals brought here by the administration's, well, I'm going to say failure to enforce the immigration laws on the books. And that clearly falls, in my mind, into the category of non-aeronautical use. Now, my question to you is, has the FAA approved any request to use airports to house illegal foreign nationals?
So to your explanation, the FAA does have a role in
I know it does, but I'm just asking if you've approved, you're the administrator, has the FAA approved any requests to house illegal foreign nationals?
So I'm going to answer that if you'll let me.
Okay.
My understanding is
I just want to use the time efficiently here.
Yeah. So the FAA does approve requests for community use, whatever the category. There's a huge number of categories for community use, and our criteria is whether it interrupts aeronautical uses or is otherwise disruptive.
So how many requests have been approved for housing illegal foreign nationals?
My understanding is there's been one airport that has made that request.
So the others that I mentioned, well, was the one that made the request any of the ones that I mentioned?
I believe it was either Kennedy or O'Hare. I can't remember for sure.
Okay, so it could be O'Hare, but then it wouldn't be Midway or Logan, yet they're housing illegal foreign nationals at the airport. Did the FAA make the required determination that no aeronautical demand is likely to exist? This is an airport, and I'm reading right from your regulation here, chapter 22.6. Did the FAA make that determination?
The determination was that it did not interfere with aeronautical uses.
So in that case, I guess the FAA won't enforce its grant assurances, which it says right here, literally on number 1, these assurances shall be complied with in performance of grant agreements for airport development, airport planning, noise compatibility program, grants for airport sponsors. So the federal government's paying for it. They make the agreement, agree to it, and then don't follow it, and the FAA is not going to do anything about it. I want to yield some time to a friend, but let me just ask this question. How does walling off portions of the airport to house unvetted illegal foreign nationals, which passengers in America have to walk beside, these are unvetted illegal foreign nationals, how does that promote safety or utility or efficiency in these airports?
I think you're out of my area of expertise. I'm not familiar with that circumstance.
I think that answers the question. I'm going to yield some time to my good friend from Texas, Mr. Nels.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Administrator, I'm going to reference a letter dated February 5th, 2024 to the Honorable Maria Cantwell and Honorable Ted Cruz. Are you familiar with this letter on February 5th that you sent?
I'm not sure what the topic is.
Okay, I'm going to make sure, because I'm going to make sure that you get a copy of this letter, so when it comes to me, I have a lot of questions regarding this letter. I yield back.
Thank you. Gentleman yields back. Recognize the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Larson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you, Administrator, for coming today, helping us out on some things. First question, I had, in your testimony, you mentioned the hotline that workers can call, as well as a whistleblower hotline. Do you have that phone number? Can you, for the record, state what it is? Can you remind folks where they can go in order to make that call?